Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the RAF F1 24 Esports Championship Season 2. This time it is round 10 at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez and the Mexican City Grand Prix, a track which is the highest in the altitude of the whole of the F1 calendars, should we say. 2,285 meters above sea level, but 2.67 miles with 17 corners, 7 to the left and 10 to the right. First time I nearly messed that one up. But the highest track on the calendar will see top speeds reaching around about 218 plus miles an hour. So the drivers are getting ready. We have an action-packed grid for you today, and plenty of action to be sure to come onto track. The weather looking favourable, or the weather not, we'll have to wait and see. But as always, before we begin, jumping on board then with a hot lap with the home hero, no longer in Formula 1 for this season, Sergio Perez. But here he is now, starting his lap, going all the way down the 1.2 kilometer straight. Top speeds, as I mentioned, coming over to 280 miles an hour. Keep over to the left hand side, brake at the braking marker. Avoid the sausage curb on the entry into turn 1. Again, slow and steady, hitting the apexes nicely. Again, avoiding the sausage curbs and picking up the first part of, the first point of DRS. The straight shot down to turn number 4 onto the right hand side, right in the apex. Get the car over to the left as much as you can, in towards the right, into the first quarter stadium section as you would like. Double apex, right hander going through to turn number 6. There we go. Into 7, onto the right hand side, dab of the brakes, avoid the grass on the inside, try not to ride too much of the curbs through the S as they go. Slight lift now, entering into turn 8, into 9, watch track limits on the exit turn 9, picking up the next DRS zone. Plenty of opportunities to overtake on this track, onto the left hand side, braking just 75 meters from the corner, over to the right, into the hairpin. Try not to ride too much of the curb, but watch the bump on the exit of turn 14 into 15. Get over to the left-hand side as quick as you can and try not to do what Valtteri Bottas did. Traction is difficult to get on the final corner, but Valtteri Bottas ended up in the barrier in turn 17 on the final corner. But that was back in 21, I believe it was. But that is that, and that is a lap of the Mexican Grand Prix. But ignore this one. The driver's just setting up the practice lobby, ready to jump into qualifying. But this time I am not on my own. Say hello, gorgeous George.
Amigo.
Oh Jesus, there you go. I was just like, that was such a delay.
No, it wasn't a delay. It was more of a delay from my brain to my throat being like, just will you say it now? How are we?
Very good. It's nice that I can actually have my my throat can be a little bit nicer this week.
Yeah,
we missed you.
Last week didn't go as planned. I missed you guys too. Last week didn't go as planned. Unfortunately, work didn't finish till 8, and even then I had more work to do on top with some secret video editing. So yeah, that went on till about 11 o'clock. So unfortunately, I wasn't there last week, but I'm back. And I love this track. The battles.
It flows as well. We saw some good battles in the past. Perez and Hamilton in 2021. We've seen Esteban Ocon even make some nice tidy overtakes down into turn... let me quickly look at the map. Turn 4, but that was on Nikita Mazepin, so particularly wasn't that difficult. He wasn't a Haas after all. Back then, and we've seen a couple of collisions all the way down into turn 1. We've seen Perez go out. We've seen I think Tsunoda went out, a little contact with Alex Albon last year, so definitely plenty of action. But surprisingly though, George, safety car, 43% probability. Not really one for a safety car, unless you're Kevin Magnussen and the Haas brakes.
Yeah, that happened. That was a very interesting accident from what I remember. It very much went over the curb and the suspension went, not today. Here's a wall.
Enjoy he was going through the S's. I think he just went into, it broke going into turn 8. His rear right wishbone just snapped on him, which is so bizarre. But I'm sure Gunther Steiner gave him some comforting words and had a lovely phone call with Gene Haas following, I think it was in practice, if I remember correctly, not in the race.
No, it was in the race because it caused a red flag.
Yes, it was. I may be thinking of a slightly different incident, but
I'll pull up F1 TV later and I'll show you.
I don't need to show me. I watched it live. I know what happened. But you picked the perfect time to join us. Everyone watching at home and yourself, George. 15 drivers take to the streets. Well, technically it is classed as a street circuit of the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City. So plenty of traffic. Could play into this one, so I think the stewards might be keeping busy. And speaking of the stewards, one of them is on track as we speak. Good old other George.
Yeah, the other George is out on track today. We don't see the other George very often. I'm normally the sole George here, so I feel there's a little bit of hostility because this is my territory now, and he's decided he wants to come back. So, but I can't be that mean. He's in a McLaren.
Yeah, we'll let him off.
Totally not biased. I'm not biased at all. But the weirdest thing is that I'm looking out my window. Normally, when I look out my window doing these commentaries, it is the dead of night, and I'm scared I'm going to wake people up. But we've got beautiful, well, I'll say sunshine, sunset outside. It's nice and light. I've got the sunlight kind of beaming on my face, so I might be a little bit more awake than normal.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same here. Clear blue, slightly orange tinting skies, and I'm sure the LEDs in the commentary box that I currently have will be turning on at some point soon, so it looks very pretty. But with that one...
already up.
Yeah, mine are getting there slowly. But there you go. The first times are being set. Bomber Brown now takes the temporary or provisional P1 with a 1:15.7. So still lots to play for as we get a few more drivers coming across the line. Weather report is the first of the McLaren duo this week as Atomic Tristan comes across the line. George, though, getting a nice little tow. You just see him coming around the final corner. 1:15. Tomo now in the Aston Martin does take that top spot. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix as we got more and more of the drivers crossing the line. Tank currently on track, quite no pun intended, to take the championship this season. Gets heavy, hits the inside curb through turn 12 and gets that kick of oversteer. So is this lap still going to be a push, or is he going to abort this lap? We'll wait and see. Round the final corner he goes. He is staying with it, takes the tight line, still pushing, and a 1:14.5. So we've seen these before. Tank, Tomo, Asset are all quick drivers on here. As Crow is currently in P4, now down into P5 as Ben Tomlin out of nowhere in the Alpine takes P3. As I say that, nope, yeah, no, that's right. I think there might have been a delay on my screen at that point. But there you go, 11 drivers are currently on their laps, as FDQ has said that she's had no practice, but she loves the track. So we'll wait and see what she can do into the stadium section, where we'll see the lights change and the fireworks ignite for whoever comes on that corner towards the latter stages of the Grand Prix. Where does the FDQ finish? In P12, 1:17, but could see them times come down as the track gets quicker. But George, I'm putting you on the spot. Take us on board with Marius.
I'm not even on board with him yet. Right, going on board with Marius then. I'll put it on into turn 1. You want to keep it tight into the corners here and really ride the curbs. That'll get you the most speed and get a nice exit onto the first DRS straight. Flicks it open and is able to run down there. You get a really good run here. It's not really an overtaking opportunity apart from on lap 105. Purple sector 1 is coming up on my screen, but I think that's just a glitch. So you're going from 3rd to 2nd, and FDQ just getting out the way there, making sure she's not impeding. Then this lovely double hairpin before heading into the treacherous S's. Lots of G-load now coming through for the drivers, but obviously you won't feel that in the game unless they've got very, very good simulators. As Marius now invalidates the lap, just riding that curb a little bit too much, all 4 wheels over the white line, but we'll carry on anyway. And then on to the second DRS straight. It's probably one of the shortest DRS straights we have in the calendar. So like can get overtaken into the stadium, where at the end you'll have confetti, we'll have fireworks, and someone will be crowned the winner of the Mexican Grand Prix. We haven't got a title fight yet. Round the final corner then, where Bottas did win it in 2021, but Marius decides because he invalidated lap, he comes into the pit lane. It's quite a tricky pit lane here, though. The pit lane entry board is very, very far, very, very close to where pit entry the line is. So drivers got to be very wary of that. We could see a lot of penalties for speeding in the pit lane this evening. However, it is a beauty of a lap. I did a couple of laps earlier. I think the fastest I got was 1 minute 16. So I currently sit probably around where Big Melt and Weather Report are. Might need to brush up a little bit before I start racing here.
Yeah, well, so I mean, there's definitely chance for you to get them numbers down. But I've said, come on, Weather Report and Big Milk. I'm thinking a little bit more around about Green and Dagger, but having raced against you in ACC, but at least you can keep your car pointing in the right direction in this.
We'll come back to that.
Touche, good point, well presented. So there we have it. So Maris invalidating his lap. We'll put a new fresh set of the soft compound tyres, the red wall tyres, as the Flash now is the next driver to set a lap. Does get a little bit of a distant tow. No, not quite enough from the the Mercedes up at the front into the stadium section. A little bit of rear locking on the car, right inside curb on the hairpin, which bounces the car and throws him out, which is where you can see miss the apex. And we got a little bit of a lag there, and into the box they go. But yes, you were saying the pit lane entry comes up on you here, thick and fast, as Asset is on a push lap, is down by 9 seconds. So possibly made a mistake somewhere going through the S's. A little bit of snap oversteer.
He's still pushing. He's still in hot lap mode at the minute, according to the telemetry. So he's still pushing, but I believe he might come into the pit lane. Yeah, he does, and knocks the
takes the bollard with him. That's what we like to see. But we have seen this before in previous seasons championship. When the safety car comes out, depends on what tyre you're on, it is very difficult to get your traction down on that final corner, turn 17, where Ben Tomlin, where Weather Report's just come through now, got to be gentle on the throttle, get that traction down, keep the car as straight as he can, or get it straight as he can, as Weather Report now starts their flying lap. And we've seen it in the past, safety car comes in, and you're on hard tyres, you just haven't had the temperature in them, and as soon as you put your foot down to go around that final corner, you just spin and end up in the pit lane, as we've seen a few times, and I know one of them may be watching who has done this before. As we have an Weather Report.
Yeah, Weather Report. Just getting it on the curb, really losing it. But Weather Report for me does not have a lot of fuel. He crossed the line with 0.6 litres of fuel, so I don't think he had enough for a full lap anyway. But he was pushing. But obviously with that slide, he's backed out of it. It's a shame really, but Weather Report going to probably box for a fresh set of those soft tyres and go again with 8 minutes and 10 seconds remaining.
Yeah, also went a little bit deep into turn 5, but you can just see it's almost like the drivers have set these cars up to have a very, very loose end, especially on here. But has the game factored in the altitude, 2,285 meters above mean sea level, as he's sliding around the final few corners. So above mean sea level, which makes it the highest Grand Prix on the F1 calendar. The next one to that one is Brazil, which I believe is around about 876 meters, I think, above mean sea level. And then third to that one will be the Hungarian Grand Prix, if memory serves me correctly. But in Hungary it gets a lot hotter, so they have to think about more cooling, or the first time you see the cooling, but with a high downforce setup. It's really weird. Something like Aston Martin did. They put out pretty much their Monaco setup in the Hungarian Grand Prix with the rear wings, where they sort of look like a little bit more of a bowl on the side. It was an interesting choice, but I believe they did quite well, if I remember correctly.
I'll have to fact check that one. But, you know, like you said, we are very high up in altitude, but what that does, it means the cars can go very, very quick, especially down the very long main straight. I think this has one of the records in Formula 1 for the highest speed, something like 330 kilometers an hour going down the main straight, which is insane for Formula 1. But to show it, Tomo goes faster, 1:13.9. First driver to hit the 1:13s which is impressive. Can that be beaten? We've got about... I can't even see the timer right now because the flags are going. I think we're about 6 minutes to go, yeah. 6 minutes to go.
And going on to your fact, though, George, I did have it written down. So the 20%, we'll just see how Tank gets on. Just out of purple sector 1, so we'll just keep an eye on him. But your stat was my stat would carries on to yours. The 20% air pressure reduction at 7,200 feet above mean sea level means that Mexico has taken over from Italy as the highest, as the race with the highest top speeds. And in 2016, Valtteri Bottas set the fastest ever trap speed in F1 history with a record of 231.46 miles an hour when he was with Williams. Okay. But the Williams telemetry said that his maximum speed reached 231.96 miles an hour. That was before the breaking point into turn 1, as Tank goes 0.3 of a second quicker. As I've just been given a little bit of information, George. So information on track heights. In elevation to the ground, you have Mexico, Brazil, then is Austria, Vegas, Belgium and Hungary in that order in highest F1 tracks. So Hungary, not as tall as I thought it was. Very interesting.
No, and your stat about Aston Martin doing very well last season at Hungary with the bowl-shaped wings. No, 10th and 11th, only 1 point.
Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. It might have been the year before.
It might have been. It might have been. I'm not 100% sure. I can't go that far back on the F1 website, unfortunately.
Touche.
You know, at the minute, we're in Mexico, and it's currently the 31st of March, I know, but we're very close to Cinco de Mayo. However, when this race is normally done, we're at Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead. That's why whenever we go to Mexico, we keep thinking it's still Halloween. There was a time I think it was held on Halloween, but they still celebrated Dia de los Muertos because it is their Day of the Dead celebration. So you see a lot of. I think their mascot is a racer that's a skeleton.
It is. He features quite a lot in Formula One, like the pre-shows and stuff like that. So.
Well, I mean, he featured on the podium one year and just looked so out of place. I think even Kimi Räikkönen looked and just went, "No, go away. Leave me alone. I know what I'm doing."
Steering wheel. No. Give it to me.
That's such a good impression.
Steering wheel. Give it to me. Give me my gloves and steering wheel. Anyway, moving swiftly on. 3 minutes and 20 seconds. We've been rambling on for nearly 20 minutes. 3 minutes and nearly 10 seconds remaining here in Mexican Grand Prix. The Mexican City Grand Prix, should I say, in qualifying. Now down to 3 minutes. Drivers into the pits. They will have a fresh set of tyres on, I'm sure, and will be expected to leave the pit lane. I would say probably in the next 10 to 20 seconds or so will be enough for one more time lap, as it looks like FDQ is now starting her lap. No, she just finished the lap half a tenth quicker on her previous time, but that has put her out of sync and will not be able to make another run, as we've got one of the Hasses, I believe, of Atomic Tristan in towards turn 1, now beginning their final flying lap. You can see the drivers now slowly trundling in and out of the pit lane. And it all comes down to this. Tomo currently taking the net P1 position, or the provisional pole position, should we say. Tristan down 1.5 seconds. So I had a bit of a mix up and invalidates the lap going into the double right-hander of turn 6. Surprisingly, only classes one corner, even though there's 2 apexes. But 2 minutes left on the clock. The Flash still yet to set a lap time in the Alpine, as we'll jump see when they start. It invalidates again and now begins to start their flying lap. That last lap though, 1:16, so without the invalidation would be enough to go ahead of Dagger in P13. But
it was an out lap.
It was an out lap, but it was a push out lap, and that's not going to help the tyres coming into the second part, because they're going to be a little bit too toasty on the four corners. The Alpine goes wide, hits that sausage curb. on to it hits on such a curb into turn 3, and you can just see how much that pushed it wide. Doesn't invalidate those, somehow keeps it within the regulations. But around the flash goes, and we'll just see who is the next car to start their lap. It will be the final lap or final chance saloon, as it looks like Weather Report is into the pits, and Crow will be the leading Ferrari to take, who will end up taking the checkered flag, as he barrels down now into turn 1. Locks up heavy on that front right, does get the apex quite nicely. Looks good into 2, misses turn 3's apex, keeps it on, or keeps all 4 wheels within that white line. DRS drag reduction system wide open, and with it being at such high altitudes, another heavy lockup hits the sausage curb on the inside of 4, keeps it clean on the exit of 5, keeps it to the right, misses the apex into 6, the first right hand apex. Over to the right hand side he goes, understeer on that Ferrari, doesn't feel like that Ferrari wants to ride these curbs over too much. Gets Brave there, keeps his foot stuck into it. Brave going through the S's, and into the stadium section he goes, 0.2 of a second up on his time, currently enough to put him in P4. Checkered flag is that. Tank has gone quicker, only just by literally 1/1000th of a second. Snap over for Crow. He takes the short line. We've seen this before. Across it goes. Half a tenth quicker, picked up a lot of time in that final sector, but not enough to get on to the front row, but enough for the second row. Asset is facing the wrong way round, coming out the S's, and that's his lap gone. Front wing damaged by the looks of it, so we could see plenty of that coming on to the rest of the session. Drivers now crossing the line. Improvements for a few of the drivers, as we are trying to have a look who was going quicker. You were saying?
Tomo around the final corner now. Gets a good exit. It's a bit squirrely though. He's going to lose time there. Around the final corner, crossing the line.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. He got too squirrely around the last corner. I think he may have just got distracted by the asset out of the S's. It's Tank safely on pole then, unless Big Melt can pull something out the bag. But I think Big Melt, yeah, he's coming into the pit lane. So that's the end of qualifying. It's Tank on pole, but Tomo really not that far behind.
No, Tomo definitely got the pace. Only 0.03 of a second, less than 0.03 of a second behind Tank. And again, that little snap oversteer moment, the difficulty in getting traction down on that final corner was enough to lose out on that top spot. Very close between these two, and I'm sure that we'll see that during the Grand Prix. But sometimes in tracks like this, it's more beneficial to start on the second row.
Absolutely. Tomo's just messaged me. Coming out that final corner, he lost 1/10 of a second, so he was going for pole. Just wasn't enough. Got too squarely out the final corner.
Well, there you have it. Simple mistakes like that is what can cost it in Formula One. But there you go. Qualifying done here in the Mexico City Grand Prix. Tank takes the top spot with just over 0.03 of a second. Is Tomo sharing that front row alongside him. Then you got Asset and Crow in the second row with Ben Tomlin. Bomber Brown in P6. George in 7th with Report in 8th. Marius in 9th. Tom Tristan in 10th. Dagger, Big Melt to the Flash. Finally set a lap time, having invalidated quite a few. Starts in P13 with I Am Green and FDQ bringing up the rear in the Mercedes. I had to say that really slowly because I nearly said McLaren. But there we go. It is now race day as the drivers set on the grid. I'm seeing a grey cloud in the sky there, George. I'm seeing a grey cloud.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see anything. But I have got an informant on the inside, so let me try and get a weather report for you. Just stand by for that.
That's fine, because I could keep talking. Yeah, but until Sergio Perez's podium in 2021, I believe it came P3 in that Grand Prix. It was the best result for a Mexican driver in the home Grand Prix, or the best result was 4th place. Which was equaled by Pedro Rodriguez in 1968. Only 5 years since the first Grand Prix was held here back in 1963. before it had a 23-year hiatus and returned back on the calendar in 2015 following some track modifications from the king of F1 tracks, whose name completely has forgotten. And I know there's a lot of K's in it and there's a H. I've completely forgotten his name. But
a lot of K's and a H. Are you talking about Raikkonen again?
No, he didn't design the tracks. He didn't design the tracks.
I thought you meant a driver for a minute. Weather report: we are staying dry for the whole race.
Oh, well, slightly boo, but there we have it. And the formation lap begins with these drivers. Tomo, though, getting a little bit of a jump on there. Maybe had a little bit of an anti-store looking at it. But away the drivers go down the start-finish to begin their formation lap, getting heat into the tyres and ensuring the gears are synced up. At least we don't want the telemetry behave.
Ooh, flashing green.
Right at the back, though, contact under the formation lap does mean that it is a disqualification and back to the start. There you go. Yep, on the cold tyres. But look at the tyre strategy. Medium compound all round. It is a straightforward, it looks like a medium hard race pre any form of safety cars, as the Crow usually, well, Crow and Asset, we have seen them use alternate strategies in other Grand Prix, but I guess this one, some can be advantage, some can be a disadvantage, but I guess this time everyone is starting on the on a level playing field, to say the least. But it will kind of get the benefit of a long tow, as long as they can nail Asset and Crow and nail their starts. Then they'll get a nice little tow down into turn one, and we could see these top four position change by the time we get around to turn two.
Absolutely, the overtaking point into turn one. We've seen carnage happen before. We go back to 2017, actually. Lewis Hamilton's one of Lewis Hamilton's championship winning years, I should say, as a 7-time world champion. Puncher on the first lap had to do 3/4 of the lap with a puncher, get back to the grid, but still was champion at the end of the race, taking it away from Sebastian Vettel. So it proves, actually, even if you have an accident on lap one, it's not all over. But with only 50%, it's going to be a risky one.
It could, and we have seen punches before. We saw one in Baku last year, I believe it was. A bit of carbon fiber left one of the Aston Martins and ended up in the tyres of the Mercedes and puncture into the wall. But the drivers now lining up onto the grid. Here we go then. It's time for the Mexican City Grand Prix. There's 2, 3, 4. There's 5 lights. They pause for the effect. And it's lights out in the way they go here in Mexico. It's a good start from Tank. Tomo getting a really bad start. And you can just see Asset and Crow now capitalising onto this as soon as they come barreling down to the start-finish straight. Nearly 200 miles an hour. They're all jockeying for position. Tank holds it at the front. Crow and Asset up a couple of places. A little lock up there from the Ferrari and the Aston Martin. And around it goes the Alpine. There we go. Good England of Ben Tomlin in towards turn 2. They keep it relatively clean, only a little bit of contact, and that is Ben Tomlin the wrong way round. Keeps it going though. More lockups up ahead. George and Bomber Brown battling out. You can just see them on the right hand side of your screen. The Kick Sauber versus the McLaren. The inside line for George around the double right hander. George up ahead, and Ben Tomlin now gets ahead of Marius. So Marius not enjoying this track too much at the moment. You can just see that Sauber of Bomber Brown struggling a little bit. That is the flash though, cutting that corner. So that'll be a warning for him for track limit violations. Tucks in now behind Bomber Brown and will be suffering from that turbulent air. We've got retirement up at the back. That is Marius out of the car. I think that was a bit of a mistake going through the S's. Looking at it in the final corner, the car isn't moving, so Marius is out. No safety car as of yet. Tank sets fastest lap. Crow's there. 3-second penalty for weather report for exceeding the track limits. So side by side with the Crow and Tomo now and Asset. So Tomo getting a lovely slipstream down into the start finish. What can Crow do here? Tomo ahead of that one. It looks like it's going to be last on late brakes. Up the inside goes Tomo. He gets ahead of the Ferrari. A little bit of contact there from that Ferrari of Crow. Asset though trying to keep up with this pack, so that's how benefit the dirty air, also the slipstream is, and the DRS is now enabled, which means that the drivers will get an extra 12 miles an hour at least here in Mexico down the start finish straight, as Flash is trying to get hold off George. A little bit of wheel contact going in there into the double right-hander. George has got back at him into the diffuser, not quite enough, but needs to be careful. Dagger is now pushing that McLaren.
Absolutely, what a start. Tomo really bad off the line. I think he may have just got his bike point a little bit wrong. He's now got to find 2 seconds, but what a dive from the Aston Martin driver. He just had the slipstream, was able to go and dive into turn 1. He had so much space as well. That's the joys of this track being so wide at turn 1, able to kind of make that late lunge. Brilliant move by Tomo. He's now got to find 2.4 seconds. He had the purple second sector. He comes across the line, and it's a 1:16.7 for the fastest lap. He's on the push to get the V-carb of Tank. Crow, though, is he's trying to catch up to the Aston Martin. He's not quite able to at the moment because he has got that DRS advantage. But Tomo really does need now to push and find some extra pace in the tyres to be able to go and get the V-carb. Shame that Maris didn't really see what happened there. It looks like he kind of went straight on, maybe just got pushed into the wall. We're looking at a safety car there. But at this phase of the race, we don't really want a safety car. Maybe a little bit later on. We've still got another 33 laps to go.
It is, it's all action down at the back. Dagger, George and Ben Tomlin. So the Flash is sticking on the diffuser of Bomber Brown in the Kick Sauber. But you got this nice little three-way fight here for P7 at least, led by George. He is the start of the train. He's dropped out of the 1 second mark of the Alpine of Flash, but he's getting chased down by the Red Bull of Dagger, and the Alpine of Ben having that spin into turn 2 and was able to catch up. And George a little bit early on the brakes, and Dagger was expected by the looks of it. Dagger trying to get out of the way and looking to go for the old switcheroo, but no, he can't do the switcheroo because he's got the Alpine on the outside of him. Dagger taking a shallow line. This is going to compromise him coming round the final corner. Gets the car nice and straight. Will have the DRS, but behind Ben will get the double dose of DRS, as it looks like battery levels are quite good. George going defensive, trying to break the toe, and is harvesting his battery. Straight through goes the Alpine, and the Alpine gets squeezed off time. Contact with the McLaren. George is the wrong way round. Dagger avoiding that collision. Good job it was a ghosted car. That could have been nasty. We got an also off at the front. That is the Flash facing the wrong way as Weatherport gets a 3 second penalty for exceeding track limit. Sorry, for corner cutting. So that might be a little bit harsh, but is what it is. So Dagger now still on the chase down to George. Gets a little bit of breathing space. Sorry, George on to Dagger. Dagger chasing Ben. A lot of breathing room. Flash, though, the wrong way round. Coming out of turn 3. And that's put him all the way back. And that chase for for Bomber Brown is no longer there, as Asset is looking to get around Crow. Has Crow got any minor wing damage from the collision with Tomo into the diffuser? So we should see a straightforward overtake as these two go down to the start finish straight.
Can't see any damage on the Ferrari at the moment, not on the front wing anyway, so I think he might have got away with it. But we can see now the Asset is trying to get into that slipstream. We could be seeing a replica of what happened with him and Tomo going into turn 1. They keep going down. The speed is there. There's the Asset. Very late move on to the outside, but he is able to get through very, very easily with the assistance of DRS. But don't forget, we have got another DRS zone. However, it is the same detection point, so it will be the Asset that gets the DRS popping open, is able to make an advantage now. Looking back at that incident down in turn 1 last lap, though, it looked like George Bell just kind of got squeezed into the wall a little bit. Very lucky not to get any damage to the front wing or even parts of the floor with that one. He's still able to make their way, but we heard what we said at the top of the broadcast about, you know, being a bit of a territory thing between me and George. I think that was just a little bit of commentator's karma.
It is, and a little bit further back there, Big Melt trying to make the move on Atomic Tristan.
Ooh.
Got a little bit too much on the brakes, cut the corner, and then had to give that position back. So no penalty for them, as Big Melt seems to be struggling a lot on these medium tyres. So maybe an issue then for that Mercedes. He's losing that position. He's just dropped outside of the points as the yellow flag is out in the stadium section. But that has gone back in ever so swiftly. So Tomo on Tank. This is going to be a battle, a little bit of a push to overtake using the ERS. And we could see on the brakes, Tomo into turn 1 they go, and we'll pick up the benefit of the DRS going in towards turn 3. But a little bit of a push to pass, I think, to get around there. But this is all a game of maths. There's 30 laps left in the Grand Prix. And if you know the pace, you know what you could do on these tyres. It's a question of who's going to be ahead at the right time of the track, which is something that we've even seen back in Monza.
Yeah, absolutely. You just got to time it right. And, you know, especially with pit stops, we don't know what's going to happen. We could see a late safety car. I think we saw a safety car now. The drivers would go straight onto a hard tyre and try and go to the end. If we saw a late safety car and drivers were already either on the soft or the hard, we're going to see them go onto the softs, of course, try and use up every last bit of their rubber. But, Tomo, you know, we have been playing the last few nights just trying to get, you know, back into the rhythm of playing F1 a bit more. And he has been quick. And even I've struggled to catch up with him. Then again, that's not hard. I'm not that fast. But we're going to see now. Tank's going to have the advantage of DRS. What is Tomo going to do? He's got 50% left in his battery compared to Tank. He's got 60. So there's a little bit more ERS there that Tank can use. But it looks to me that Tomo has got a pretty healthy gap going into turn number 1. And it is still a healthy gap. You can see there's at least a car's length, maybe even 2 car lengths now going into there. We've got a yellow flag, and I think that's for weather report in the stadium section. It is. Looks like she's done a bit of a spin. But we go back to Tank. Tank not able to make it into the second DRS. So there's, oh, he locks up almost into the back of the Aston Martin. It looks like there was going to be contact for just a second. It's very well handled there by the V-carb. But time to recharge. It's 87% for the V-carb, 60% for the Aston Martin. As you see, George Biel now making his way back through and able to get past Ben Tomlin up to 6th. 4 seconds the gap to Crow, now down in 5th place.
It is. We could see Crow now make the move on Bomber Brown. We know that there is a speed advantage. You see Bomber Brown on the heli shot just getting a little bit out of shape. Crow took it in. Goes to try and sell the dummy in towards the stadium section. Not quite there. You can just see how late Crow can brake in the Ferrari. Another lockup on the inside front into the stadium section. Nothing he can do there. He's losing out on time to George, I'm sure of it. But this should be a nice straightforward DRS overtake with a little bit of assistance from the ERS, the electronic recovery system. Gives a little nice boost of horsepower to these these V6 hybrid cars, and it doesn't even need it. Around he goes. Straight line speed differential with the DRS, 12 miles an hour extra, 8 to 12 miles an hour, depends on where you are on the altitude. And around they go, and we'll pick up the DRS to go with that one. Weather report as Big Melt is into the pit, so possibly there was something wrong with that Mercedes. On go the hard tyres, so he'll be looking to go to the end of the Grand Prix. I am sure of that one. But Atomic Tristan just within the DRS of Dagger now. Dagger seems to be slowing up. The medium tyres maybe starting to grain a little bit more than what the drivers expected, as George is now clear. 4 seconds from Dagger on the HUD to get that position back from Ben Tomlin, and we'll see that gap close down. But I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, George, you need at least about 0.5 of a second come around the final corner. Asset though, a penalty for exceeding the track limits in towards, let's see where Asset is now. Asset's just in the stadium section, so that was a strange place to get that penalty, as George losing out just a little bit of time going through there now out of the 1 second DRS. And there's a detection point. Was he close enough this time round? We'll have to wait and see for another 5 seconds or so. He was not. George dipped out just at the DRS, coming out the stadium section, but we'll be able to tuck in to the slipstream, and you can just see that gap closing down, almost a 10th of a second through that one. But you need a little bit more with a little bit of the drag reduction in order to get that move over and done with. But the closest fight on track, we now have Atomic Tristan and Dagger.
Yeah, Atomic Tristan and Dagger. This is going to be an interesting fight then. Atomic Tristan with the DRS again, it's not close enough. Like you say, you do need about 5 to 6 tenths coming out the final corner, because what you got to think, that is the one of 2 detection points on the track. is coming out of the stadium into the final corner, because the same detection point is for the activation points down the main straight and then down the first straight on the run to the double apex hairpin. As the asset goes, the Troll Tristan goes through. Dagger very, very wide. I wonder if he's got a problem, because excuse me, because the flash has gone through now as well. Is there an issue for Dagger?
Well, that'll be a difficult one to say. Maybe a mistake going through the S's as the camera decided to switch to stare at a wall instead, sideways, trying to struggle to get the traction.
I think he's having to save fuel. Just looking at the telemetry that I'm seeing here, I think he's doing a lot of LICO, lifting, coasting, because he has got an orange light on the telemetry. If I just hide the UI and try and find that for you in just a second, I think he's got 26.7 laps of fuel, which wouldn't be enough. So yeah, he's having to lift and coast. That's why he's being so slow. He's underfueled the car, thinking there must be an early safety car at some point, which, you know, we are known for a little bit here. But
true,
it's not worked out for him. And he is having to lift and coast. The orange light is flashing on and off for the fuel, so he is lifting and coasting enough that he's getting there, but he needs to do it a lot more. He's probably in lean as well with his fuel mode. As the flash now with a 3-second time penalty, not going to help him.
it is. And also looking at the back end of that Red Bull, it looks like the tyres may have overheated quite a bit, as we just quickly skipped over to George. It looked like he was about to make the move on Ben Tomlin. So Chrono 6 seconds now behind Asset, and Asset with that 3-second penalty for track limit violations. So we should be able to see George. He is now 0.5 of a second behind Ben Tomlin. This should be a straightforward overtake. It opens the DRS. He's got 73% left in his battery, so he's definitely has enough for a push to pass moment. He's not close enough. I think he's forgotten. It's been so long since he last drove. Big Mel with a 3-second penalty. It's been so long since George last jumped in the Formula 1 car. I think he's forgotten to use his overtake, and that could have been a nice straightforward pass. And this is just going to hurt his tyres, being in that turbulent air of the Alpine in front. Well, I think George maybe just charging for a bigger push later on down the line, as the flash is now on the back of Atomic Tristan. Looks like a bit of a move going on. Big Melt gets a position on to Weather Report, but the fight is a little bit further up the road. Dagger trying to take the flash. The flash trying to keep up with Atomic Tristan in that DRS. And we've got a couple of battles folding, or unfolding, should I say, as we hit lap 11. Pit stops soon, I think.
Yeah, pit stops are going to happen soon, I think. But George has now overtaken Ben down the back final DRS straight. But that's now going to leave him open for attack from Ben Tomlin. However, George has been really good. He has saved his ERS, got 90%. He was at 100% coming around the double apex. He's now using that overtake as a defense mechanism from Ben, who's only got about 45% battery now. So, can Ben do it? He's looking down the main straight. George is using that ERS just to defend. It's not going to happen, even with the gap that they had as he goes over the sausage cup. That's a bit of a slide as Ben Tomlin. But yeah, down the second DRS straight, the rears are definitely going. His pit stop time too, and DRS opens again. He's not using the ERS down here. I think he might be thinking about pitting as we see Greens come into the pits, but he did have a spin down at the double apex hairpin. And the leaders, Tomo is, I think, yeah, down at the stadium. He's probably not thinking about boxing yet with a 3-second gap. But we'll just have to wait and see on that one. He's still a little bit slidey. Coming around the final corner. Is it going to be pit time yet? No. So we're going to keep an eye on cars entering the pit lane and seeing what tyres are going to go on.
I think one thing Tomo needs to be aware of is the undercut. And there it goes. As soon as I said it, the undercut is on. So the undercut means that you'll be able to pit. You pit before the car in front of you. You get a fresh set of tyres on, and you go absolutely hell for leather on your outlap. And now Tomo will have to respond. So when he pits, he'll be on older tyres. He'll be a lot slower. And this is where Tank can actually gain that position for the lead back. The undercut is on, and it is very powerful here in Mexico, especially with the nature of that middle and third sector. So Asset is also in. The Tank is on the hard tyres, and we have to wait and see what Tomo is going to do up at the front. He has looks like he has lapped Weather Report, having Weather Report pitted himself. So Weather Report, I Am Green, and Big Melt or FDQ down at the back there, all now a lap down. Lap 13. We are almost halfway through the Grand Prix. A couple of battles still to go, but Tank has come out in front of traffic, so that undercut could actually not work. Tomo, this could actually play into his hand unless
He's in.
Unless Tank can get around the Alpine off Ben Tomlin anytime soon. He moves out of the way quickly, and we'll have to keep an eye. A snap oversteer for someone, or a little bit of a connection issue there. But what is Tank going to be able to do? He gets around the Alpine around the final corner. Where is Tomo now? He is leaving the pits. He is on the pit exit around the final corner. Tank goes. Where is Tomo? Tomo is out of the pits, and I think this has played into his hands beautifully with the Tank stuck in that traffic. Now he has to get past George and navigate, and that 3 seconds that he could have brought down to take the lead of the Grand Prix has only gone down to 2 seconds. So this has not helped him at all, but Tomo has to get the tyres into the operating window as quick as he can in that car. And yet to pit though, George and Ben, as we've got movement at the back of Atomic Tristan getting around Bomber Brown, and still all to play for. Lap 14 of 36, Bomber Brown going wide into turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that traffic really did cost Tank then, because Tomo was able just to push hard, and I think the gap as they entered into the pit lane was about 23 seconds. More than enough time to change tyres and get back out.
Oh, sorry, 2 seconds. Sorry, 2 seconds. That's Atomic Tristan sideways. It looks like there was a contact then from Bomber Brown, as we'll try and save that as quick as we can and re-watch that. So we'll see if I can get the replay up. But yeah, you can just see now side by side in towards one of the corners. There we go. And then take the inside line, the outside line, and then a little bit of a pit maneuver going on there. So that's going to hamper Atomic Tristan for that. So is that place going to get given back, or they're just going to race and battle it out to the stewards? We'll wait and see. But yeah, sorry George, continue.
Yeah, it may. I think they're going to battle it in the stewards. I don't see the guys slowing down as Atomic Tristan now enters pit lane. There could be some damage somewhere, very slowly into the pit lane, very gingerly. So we'll just have to wait and see what Atomic's doing. I think he might just be coming in to try and pit and just get rid of those tyres after that instant there. But yeah, so 23 seconds was the gap. It's more than enough time to enter, change tyres and leave pit lane. Gap is 1.8 seconds. Now, Tank has scrubbed in the hard tyre. As we know, you need to scrub it in to start getting the grip, because there's not a lot of grip on the hard tyre. So you have to really scrub them in to get that grip in. So he's got that to his advantage, but at the same time, because they're fresher, Tomo also has a small advantage. The gap has gone back up to 2 seconds as we enter the stadium section. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. As I think, looking at the track map, I Am Green's going to have a little battle with Weather Report for 13th. It's a freeway battle between FDQ, Weather Report and I Am Green at the moment. FDQ is doing some fuel saving by the looks of it. So is Weather Report. I Am Green still has a fair amount of ERS compared to the other two, so he's at a massive advantage, and he can push a bit more because he has got that little bit of fuel, but it did just go yellow on the light as well. So battle at the back, not looking too bad.
Now that it is. Asset though gets around Ben Tomlin for P4 on the grid. We'll just have a quick look at the position changes on track. George currently up 4 places now in P3, but if I remember correctly, is he has hang on, no, come on game, there we go. So George though still yet to pit, so 21 seconds or 21.8 seconds ish average pit stop loss time here, so that'll put George right back to P7 by the looks of it, coming out ahead of Bomber Brown, as Asset is trying to get the hunt on to George. He likes overtaking just for the stadium section, and inside he goes. Nice bit of DRS overtake. Asset though up into 3rd position, as we should see George come into the pits this lap. The medium tyres are not looking very pretty, as there we go, George now into the pits for his stop. Mandatory requirement in a dry race in Formula 1. They must use an alternate compound, an alternate tyre compound. So in this case, the mediums to hards for all the drivers. You cannot go to the end of the Grand Prix on a single set of tyres unless your name is Gerhard Berger in the 1986 Mexican Grand Prix, when he took one of his first of 10 Grand Prix wins driving for Benetton in the B186, one of the most powerful F1 cars that was ever raced, apparently. But he competed and completed to win on a single set of the Pirelli tyres. That is no longer allowed in Formula 1. So there you go. I like how I slid that fact in there nicely for you all. And I think Bomber Brown is asking for an invitation to the lobby. So we'll have a quick look, see if I do have him on my friends list. Yep, there we go. So I believe that was a disconnection from Bomber Brown. Do apologise for that for those who are tuning in and watching. As Green down in P14. Still not close enough to get around Weather Report, who is getting the neutralisation of DRS themselves behind FDQ. But the gap's opening up and the race seems to be settling down as I'm Green gets very sideways. So we'll keep an eye on this battle down at the back until we see some of the gaps close up a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, well, the Flash has come in for his mandatory pit stop. Last one to pit off the medium tire. We've got a yellow flag down into sector 1 though. I think that is for FDQ. Yep, she had gone around, but is back on track. As she said at the start of the evening, it is one of her favourite tracks, but she's had no practice. So I think the no practice side is coming out, but let's hope she can find some pace to get back, find that 5 seconds she's lost, and start going for those battles once again.
Yeah, I changed the camera last second, but I think there was actually a collision between two of the drivers. I did see two ghosted cars very quickly, and I looked away from my screen for 1 second, pressed the button, and the battle was over. And I think the hard tyres on that Mercedes are pretty much cooked quite a bit, as it looks like we've got a few disconnections possibly. I've got I Am Green and Weather Report both ghosted at the moment, as Tomo is lapping them, I believe, once more. So that'd be probably why they are ghosted cars on the screen. But the battle is still on for 13th. For P12. No points for P12, but bragging rights more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always bragging right for these positions. It's just for the pure fact that you know, when we go back into the voice server after the race, you can hear a bit of a friendly banter, should we say. I think that's the best way of putting it.
It's brutal,
and
basically.
Then, yeah, it's brutal. It is brutal going back into that voice chat after the race. But then again, me and you join in and go, well, we watched it from the offboard. It's your fault.
I mean, usually by the time we join, everyone has decided to disappear. So I guess they just don't want to speak to the commentators anymore.
No, they want to listen to us before the race. But even then, we don't really get a word in edgeways.
Yeah, I am slightly confused though at this battle though at the back. It appears as the drivers have been going around, the two cars have been ghosted. They are now back to normal. So I Am Green on Weather Report. It looked like both of them do get the DRS. It is going to be cancelling each other out. There was push overtake going on for both of them. So it's pretty much completely neutralised each other in the race. But with Tank being ahead of Weather Report, he is within a second of the car in front. So that's why Weather Report is getting the benefit of the DRS by hanging on to the back of Tank. But as soon as he loses out that 1 second gap before the detection point, then that's where we could see issues. Crow there with a 3-second penalty for track limits, and he was so close to the asset, he could have taken P3 from him by 0.3 of a second if he closed up that gap. But that penalty is now nullified what Asset has, so there will be a battle on track for these two unless another penalty arises. But something I noticed about Weather Report though, George, he's got a broken end plate, front left end plate damage. As we jumped on board with the wing camera for some reason, as he goes wide, you can see he's struggling to get any form of front end grip on that McLaren. And this is definitely hampering, and this would explain why Green has closed up so much. Not 1 second from Tank this time round from
he's already
for Weather
him.
Report.
Already.
And there's a straightforward DRS overtake for you. A little bit of a push to pass going on from Weather Report to try and hold that gap. But to no avail, gets late on the brakes, almost into the back of the Kick Sauber. But that end plate damage is just going to cost now that the Green has got some clean air up in front, as Crow now has closed in on that 3 second gap that he would have needed to take that position come the end of the Grand Prix. But with that penalty is not that penalty not helping Weather Report though with another one for track limits, and you can just see how much that front wing is hampering. Possibly you may need to think about coming in for a set of the soft tyres and a front wing change. But the nearest battle you have next is a battle for P5. George doing what he needs to hold that gap, having done his pit now, so we've got fresher, younger tyres on the hard compound. Predicted to come out about 7th. I didn't see where he came out in the end, but is now leading the train to Ben and Bomber Brown, who are on, and I'll tell you how many tyres lives they are on. Bomber Brown 7-lap old tyres, but Ben Tomlin on the exact same level of freshness, goodness of grip in the Alpine, as Bomber Brown has closed up now. Enough on to the Alpine.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that gap between the Alpine and the Kick Sauber is now at 0.4 of a second. So Bomber Brown's going to have a major advantage, but that gap's suddenly grown a little bit in the stadium section. It's now beyond a second. He's not going to have DRS around the final corner. I think he's had a bit of a mistake in the stadium, and you can see just the gap increase. So he's also running out of DRS. He's at 5%. He's having to kind of save it down the straight now because he's used so much of it catching up with the Alpine. So that's really not helped Bomber Brown because he was so close at one stage. Going to have to start saving that energy up, just using that little bit of lift and coast into the corners, saving a bit of fuel at the same time. But Ben Tomlin, though, is now under a second to George on the same age tyres. So we could be seeing here this real battle for P5 coming very, very soon.
But Ben needs Bomber Brown, though, 3 seconds for the track limit violations. But also Ben needs to be careful now. I've seen him go off track a few times. So we could see a 3 second penalty for the Alpine driver. Maybe one more warnings left in it, judging by what I could see from the broadcast view. Has dropped out of that 1 second window to the McLaren up in front into the stadium section. What can he do with that gap? The detection point is around about there. There it is. There's the detection point. No, he's not close enough this time round either. So Ben closing up on George. He's got so much more pace in that stadium section. And you can just see now, no DRS available, no battery left, and George is just doing what he needs to defend, but he is closing on the Mercedes of FDQ. And if he can time this right, then he will also get the benefit of the DRS. But I don't think he's going to be able to, because the detection point, the next one, is halfway through the S's. And that will get you the DRS down to the stadium section. And there's the blue flags for FDQ as she gets out of the way, or the car is just ghosted in general. No damage can be done under the ghosted car except to yourselves. And around you go. So no DRS for George, and that blue flag has allowed Ben to close up. But Dagger now with the penalty, as we should maybe see an attempted overtake from Ben. Picks up the DRS, gets the activation. Not close enough this time. It needs about 2/10 in at that corner. On that DRS into the stadium. George, you can just see how much he's harvesting as the battery pack on Ben's Alpine. You can just see how much speed that Alpine can get. Gets a little bit caught in the dirt, yeah, as you come offline a little bit. But this should be the overtake done. George can deploy to defend. And is there any deployment from the Alpine? No, he's not, but I think it was a little misshift in gears. No, he's holding. So Ben is electing not to overtake. He was holding, he was lifting behind George. Is there a fuel issue on that Alpine?
I can't see a fuel issue at the minute. There's no amber light showing up on here. If I just jump on board, with the Alpine. What I'm seeing, we're looking at around 12 and a half laps of fuel. So he's got plenty of fuel to tank. I think what he's doing, he's putting pressure on the McLaren to, pressure him into a mistake and really make sure that George knows he's now under pressure, and that Alpine is just getting faster and faster and faster. But at the same time, George wants to put pressure on the Alpine to keep pushing, so he wears the tyres more, and George can just drive off into the Mexican sunset as Crow makes an overtake on the Asset, and it's able to go up into P3 and turn 1.
Just gets it around turn 1. You saw the heavy lockup just on the edge of your screen, but Crow did pick up the DRS from Green. If I'm looking through my thing, and Asset around the outside becomes the inside. It's the double switcheroo for Crow. Double right hand side, Asset on the outside. Not gonna happen this time round, but Asset is off the track. Asset's into the wall, and it must have dipped the rear left onto the grass, and that is that battle.
All over again.
It is all over again, and that is the battle done. Is Crow still pushing? He is. It did look fairly clean from the angles that we saw, but we'll see if I did catch any of that. But there you go, the battle between these two, the double switchback lines that are coming through around the double right-hander. That they go. Asset's on the outside, nowhere else for them to go, and I think he just spun up the rears by the looks of it. Did well, only to damage the front wing on that Haas, so still has a chance to get some decent points with the 20-second gap to Ben Tomlin. And it's spicing up towards the latter stages of the Grand Prix as Ben Tomlin has now gotten around George BL. So Ben in P5, George in P6 will get the DRS down the start-finish straight, but now under threat from Bomber Brown as as Asset has boxed to get a new front wing and more than likely the soft compound tyres. Now he's on another set of mediums, so the softs maybe not lasting 8 laps or so that we predicted, but all still going, and we'll just have to see what Asset can do to claw back up their positions, as he's already gotten around Bomber Brown, as he looks like he's disconnected once more and has left the session. So no defence for George from the hunt of Asset to try and claw back some crucial points.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what happened between Crow and the Asset, like you said, the Asset seemed to have spun his tyres up. Now, the Asset was on the dirty side of the track where all the marbles build up. There's less grip. You have to work quite hard on that side of the track to try and make sure you keep the traction down. The problem is, if you're in a fight, you want to keep your foot down as hard as possible. But what's that going to do? It's going to spin up those rear tyres, especially with no traction. And yeah, into the wall for the Asset. But fresh mediums is probably a wiser choice right now with 10 laps to go. Yeah, a lot wiser choice than going on the softs, because at the end, you know, the softs are going to run very, very quickly around here. And with 10 laps to go, just wouldn't have made it, and probably made his life a little bit worse, and he'd probably have to pit again.
Yeah, that would be about right. The medium tyres are definitely favourable here in Mexico. Big Melt, though, had an incident in the final corner. Looks like wing damage, almost doing what Valtteri Bottas did, and clipped the outside wall. So into the pit, Big Melt had decided to do, and a new front wing for them. But 10 laps to go. Tomo leads Tank by nearly 6 seconds on the clock. Having Tank trying to pull that undercut maneuver, but getting held up in traffic by a couple of the Alpines, and I think it was someone else who I cannot remember. I think it might be one of the Saubers. But that undercut came to fruition. We got a spinner at the back. That is Crow. Crow losing traction on the final corner. And we said it at the start, it's one of them places that you can easily lose traction, and this is now going to put Asset back into
lucky. Well, this is the thing. He's got quite lucky. The gap between him and George at the minute, it was about 20 seconds, so he had a good gap to try and, you know, get back on the track and go. He only lost half the time. So it's not ideal, but at the same time, very much saved by the gap that he had got. But what's Crow going to have to do now? He's going to have to cool those tyres down for an absolute start down the straights, which he probably has done by now, and just take it a little bit easier. 11 laps on the hard shouldn't give too much of a grain or anything like that, so I think it was just a little bit too much throttle just to spin. But Crow now can gain that time back. He's already up to 12.5 seconds, so he is gaining a little bit more time.
Yeah, the final corner can be quite treacherous here in Mexico. I've seen it myself. I've nearly done it myself. And obviously we've seen it a couple of times today. But still, all to play for. Lap 29 of 36. The battle on track that you're watching at the moment is for P4 between George and Ben. So Ben making the move on George to get the overtake done a few laps back. And now George looking to go for the overtake just for the stadium. Looks to the inside, then the outside. And not close enough this time around through the hairpin of the section of the stadium. I'll get my England out. I'm getting very tired very quickly. So around the final corner they go. George will have the DRS, but will not be close enough this time round. Doesn't have the battery, but Ben has just been able to harvest almost 80% in that Alpine. So Ben definitely one up, should we say, on the defensive move. As a little bit further back, though, you can see Atomic Tristan trying to close down Dagger, but is within Dagger's penalty window. As we'll just have a look at Big Melts did come in to the pits, has got more wing damage, or elected not to change the wing as he's battling with Weather Report at the moment on the medium tyres. And you can just see the traction that he got out that double right-hander. A little bit of contact in the wheel side by side into turn 7. Doesn't end well, but that was enough to get ahead, as it looked like Weather Report had a little bit of a mistake catching too much of the inside curb. But from that, Big Mouth receives a 3-second penalty for another track limit violation, as Tristan has now closed that gap on to Dagger. He doesn't technically need to do it on track. The penalties will suffice so long as he can keep it clean for the next 6 laps. And George is still on the hunt for Ben Tomlin. So the battle for the final 2 points, Tommy Tristan and Dagger. As the point systems have changed for this season, it will be 10 points for the winner, all the way down to 1.
The grabs.
We'll have a look. Is Crow in the grass? That's coming out of turn 2. So maybe a rear lock-up moment for Crow. He's still got full battery. Needs to be careful, though. That gap between Ben is now rapidly closing. So Crow, currently on the 3rd step of the podium, could lose it. Needs to keep it clean. I think it was a rear lock-up into turn 1.
I think it may have been. I was watching and I couldn't quite see what had happened. He just suddenly went very slowly out of turn 1 and then into the grass. So I think it may have been a rear or front lock-up and he just had to go that way. Yeah, very, very strange. But that gap's now dropped to 5 seconds. Crow's really got to watch what he's doing over the last 5 laps to make sure he keeps 4 wheels on the black stuff and not on the green stuff. Because, yeah, you really do not want to set foot on that.
You'll get very lucky.
Oscar Piastri proved.
Yeah, you'll get very lucky if you can get an overtake on the green stuff that we have seen. We haven't seen it done, but usually when the track is absolutely bone dry. But it doesn't really like it. But look at this now. George right on the gearbox of Ben. I think this is where he's counted the laps. He's making the move. It is a slight push to overtake DRS into turn 1. George now up into 4th place. We'll get the DRS coming out of turn 3, so could extend that gap a little bit more. Ben will have to deploy, I'm sure, to try and keep close enough, or he's just going to sit back, harvest and relax. But nothing that George can do up ahead. Well, he does have a little bit of does have traffic from the Mercedes, so could get a benefit of a tow from the Mercedes, and then even DRS when it comes into the final section of the track. Snap for the McLaren going into turn 7. Wants to have a little bit less of that. Very easy to lose it, as that was the section that we saw Kevin Magnussen lose the back end of that car. Asset 3-second penalty for track limit violation, and we'll have a quick look at the penalties applied at the moment. So Asset with 6 seconds and Bomber with 3. So currently Asset will stay ahead of the Kick Sauber. George round in the final corner right now, and it looked like Ben was within the DRS detection come the start finish line. Weather report 15 seconds of penalties, Green with 3 and Big Melt with 6, so that position will not change come the checker flag. But Crow with 3 seconds. George thinks I think George sees it, George, and is trying to get a wiggle on to try and close that gap onto Crow to get that 3rd spot.
So much Georgeception going on. It's great.
There's so many Georges.
I just think the attention's all on me, like it normally is. Yeah, George is really starting to push a bit more, but the problem is he's having to push more, mainly because of the Alpine that's behind. We've got a spinner. I believe that could be of FDQ down at the S's, but it's gone green already, so we don't have to worry about yellow flags interrupting the racing going through the S's. Very tight, very technical part of the track. You don't want to hit too much of the curb and go into the barrier like Kevin Magnussen did last season and caused that red flag. Into the stadium section then. We've got 4 laps remaining here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Into the final corner, which is the old stadium section. In Formula E, they use the whole of this outside of the stadium, which I think Formula 1 need to adapt at some point. We've got some lap runners then behind FDQ and I Am Green ahead. Oh, sorry, I think that's Big Melt even, with I Am Green ahead. So George could benefit from the DRS there if he was a little bit closer, able just to counteract Ben Tomlin, as we got the blue flags now getting the cars out of the way, giving some breathing space for George, but not for very long. As they go down the first DRS straight then. Is it going to be an overtake? No. Ben Tomlin decides not here, not yet. FDQ, 3-second time penalty for multiple track limit violations. While Tomo still out in front, 9 seconds is the gap. He's just got to keep it cool, calm and collected for the next 3 laps. And he will return to the RAF Lightning's Esports League with victory in Mexico. He has been looking forward to it all week, to be fair. I've got him to do it this week. And I think he's going to thank me when I go back into the boys chat a bit later on.
Yeah, well, he's still got to bring it home in the next race after this, of which I knew I was missing something on my screen, and it was actually the calendar, so I could read it. And, you know, ooh, I can read what you're reading.
Yeah, Flash has gone round at the S's. Sorry to butt in there. Now is 11 seconds behind Bomber Brown. Maybe there was some contact there. I'm not 100% sure. Trying to see if there's any damage, but I'm stuck on a helicopter cam at the minute, so that is not helpful whatsoever. I don't see any major damage to the car, but maybe just a lot of damage to his pride.
Yeah, well, still 2 more laps to go. We've seen things happen in the latter stages of the Grand Prix before, and this is one battle that could change right in the minute. As Ben Tomlin, though, gets a 3-second penalty. He just dipped his last wheel off the white line come the exit of turn 5, and this is going to give George a little bit of breathing space now as Tristan gets another 3-second penalty. All but 3 drivers with violations of sorts, and we've seen this in the past when Asset now gets a penalty. That's another penalty for Asset as well. But we've seen this in the past with George's racing. He has managed to gain many positions in a Grand Prix just by keeping it clean and keep all 4 wheels within the white lines on the edges of the track. He keeps it on the black stuff. He keeps it clean. We're going to see an overtake here, I'm sure, from Ben, as the penalties are still coming in with 2 laps left to go. There's the straightforward overtake, and all that George needs to do now is just tuck him behind in the slipstream of Ben and just hold within 3 seconds for a gap. You can just see how powerful the DRS is here. 6 tenths of a second straight away from the overtake in towards turn 1. So this is the only battle that we can really see on track. The rest will go either to the stewards or to the gaming penalties. A mistake though by Ben. You just saw the snap oversteer. He spun up the wheels going into the double right-hander just coming out of turn 5, and this allowed George to close that gap but couldn't overtake due to the position on the track or where it was. But through the S's that they go. George, plenty close enough. We could see the move being made, but is he just... I think he may want to decide to hold back. No, he's going for it. Helicopter shot. No, he's a flash in the mirror from George, giving a little scare. Tomlin, Ben Tomlin knows he's there, and George is not going to give this up any time soon. But the final lap has now begun with Tomo taking that start finish. He is just rounding now into the S's, into turn 7. George not close enough this time for the overtake, I'm sure. Just wants to keep within the DRS. But here we go, though.
I think he's thinking about it. He's thinking about it. No, he's not. He's tucked back in, but he's going to have another chance into the second DRS zone.
It will do, George.
I think we might as well go to the shot. We're going to the shot of the stadium. There's confetti everywhere.
It is confetti everywhere. He started on P2. He got pipped to the pole only by 0.03 of a second. He kept it clean, and he takes the win in Mexico City. Tomo back on top in the Aston Martin, and following suit behind was the pole sitter Tank. He lost out to Crow. He lost out to Tomlin on the start through the slipstreams. He couldn't get the undercut to work because of traffic, but P2 he will have to settle with. George gets a penalty for 3 seconds, and that he's going to be kicking himself about that, but is he going to go for it? Crow has had a couple of mishaps in the Grand Prix, crosses the line, being P3, so will take that podium position with the Ferrari. One more corner to go. Who's going to come out ahead? And with that penalty, George got at the end. Ben Tomlin takes P4 under the checkered flag. A valiant battle between both the drivers. Asset in P6, the charge having to make that pit stop. Not quite enough. Bomber Brown in P7 as the flash comes through the stadium section. You can just see all the fireworks, all the confetti. Unfortunately, they're not quite for him, but they can be if they want it to. Around the corner, the flash goes. It started late in qualifying. Only managed to get one time lapped in, and a good effort to climb up into P8 following all the penalties. But there you have it. Mexico done in a nutshell, as the Flash does get driver of the day from the game. As I said, started near the back and ended up in P8. Definitely a valiant drive from him. Mexico done, George.
Mexico done. Aye, aye, aye. What a race.
Battles all over the track. 15 drivers on the grid. Absolute chaos. And unfortunately, we're only a team of 2, and only one of us can control the camera at the same time. So we can't catch all the battle on track. We don't have a production team of about 4,000 people working with us as the drivers do celebrate with the champagne on the podium. Another triple constructor on the top. But there you have it, though. Tomo takes his win, starting P2, and gets the 10 crucial points in the championship. Not sure who the champion is as of yet. We'll wait for the stand-ins to be updated for that one. But Tank finishes P2 with Crow in P3, up a couple of places from the start. Then you got Ben Tomlin for the Alpine. Manages to hold off George due to a last-minute penalty from the McLaren driver with the Asset, and Bomber Brown, a mistake from the Asset, putting them a bit further back. You got Flash in P8 with Dagger in 9th with the Tom Tristan, Big Melt, Iron Green, Weather Report, and FDQ in rounding up your remaining drivers, with Marius with an DNF in the early stages of the race. Unsure on what the issue was, but that DNF happening just before the stadium section, around about turn 12. But exciting stuff.
About that.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah. It's always exciting, isn't it? I mean, like we said at the top of the show, you know, Mexico's always been exciting. It's always been a bit of a thriller to sit and watch and to sit and kind of enjoy. Even going up there, it's always a bit of a thriller. But that just proved it. There was overtakes galore. You had Tomo was pushing today. He needed that victory. He needed to come back and show why he's a fighter, and he proved it today. With that gap he had as well, an immense gap to Tank, and even then the Asset, which we've seen the last few races really dominating, the Asset nowhere to be seen today, really. Was it a bit of lack of preparation? Was it maybe it just wasn't his track? Not 100% sure. But Tomo. It's a valiant drive.
Yeah, that it was. Started in P2, but just missing out by less than 0.03 of a second, and then managed to get I would say a little bit lucky with the undercut attempt from Tank just coming out in all that traffic. So definitely helped out, but with that gap towards the end, I don't think there was any chance that the battle would have been on for P1. But well done to Tomo for taking that win. The championship fight is still on, I'm being told in the chat. So we'll wait and see. Hopefully we can get the standings up for you in the next for the next Grand Prix. Now that we've had some student decisions, and one of them I can say is someone, I can't remember the name, got an extra 10-second penalty for an unsafe rejoin in Zandvoort. So that puts them out of the points. Dropped from P9, no, I think it was P9 to P12, something like that. But anyway, is what it is. So the penalties are getting applied behind the scenes that you can save. It's a weather report for no resafe jointly, as we like to say in the chat. We don't, resafe jointly. But there you go. That resafe jointly. We always scream at each other. But there you go. That is the Mexico City Grand Prix. The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez will say goodbye to that for another year at least, or at least till the next season. And we'll wait and see what happens. But the racing is not done yet. Still got a couple more to go. So there we have it. Yas Marina is the next track that we're going to have. It is currently the 31st, so all the races have been pushed back by 1 week. So Mexico today, then we're on Yas Marina on the 7th of March. 7th of April, before we round up the season in Australia on the 14th of April. So we've still got 2 more races, another back-to-back to look forward to as we come to slowly to the conclusion of the season 2 of the RAF F1 Esports 24 Championship. And I will, one of these days, George, I will get it the right way around. I'm good at the start, and then I lose it at the end. Don't know why.
I get it wrong all the time. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. But with that one, then, I want to say congratulations to the drivers. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will end this one here. Any final words, George?
Adios, muchachos.
Nice. I bet you've been Googling that for the entire time.
Yeah.
Right. Well, with that, it's going to be a good night from George.
And it's an adios from Jack.
And we will see you next week on the 7th of April for the Yas Marina Grand Prix for Season 2. Have a good night.
Good night.